You're a Leafs fan. What are you wearing?
I know.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Mark.
And I'm RJ, and tonight we're here to talk about the Quebec Nordiques because last night Colorado had a throwback night and threw on the Quebec Nordiques uniforms, and I thought that was quite warm. Might warm my heart over that.
You're a Leafs fan. Where did you get that, and why do you own it?
Well, to tell you the truth, this sweater and hat are over 35 years old. 30, I don't even want to say how old. 36, 37 years old. What happened was, we went through I think things were bad nowadays at times with Toronto, but the 80s was the Harold Ballard era, and I'd had enough by the end of the decade. Leafs traded Tom Curvers, a journeyman defenseman. They traded their first draft pick overall for Tom Curvers, a journeyman defenseman to New Jersey. And New Jersey Leafs ended up, were in a death dogfight with Quebec for last place overall. And New Jersey got that pick. And they used it to pick Scott Niedermayer. So the Leafs could have had Scott Niedermayer. Also, what happened was Floyd Smith, the general manager, realized he made a big blunder, and he started adding in more and more veterans because the Leafs were actually in last. He had to pass Quebec to get into second last, because it was Eric Lindros who was like going to be the next wing.
The up-and-comer, yeah.
He was called the next one after the great one. And I got so pissed off about this that I invited about 30, 40 people over to my house and held a press conference where I took my Leaf jersey and hat. I didn't burn them. I don't do that. I don't burn flags, and I don't agree with that. I threw them on the ground, and I announced my allegiance to the Quebec Nordiques. And I called it because I said, that Quebec Nordiques team, I know they're in that last place right now, but they're building something. And they had Joe Sakic, and they got Peter Forsberg when they did the whole, maybe we'll do a video on the Lindros fiasco one day. And, of course, they had Sakic, Forsberg. They ended up getting your guy, Patrick Roy, and the rest is history. They ended up winning 3 cups. So I should have stuck with it. But, of course, the Leaf fans, I quickly went back to the Leafs. Fletcher made the trade for Doug Gilmour, and I fell in love again. Anyway, that's the story about that. Let's get to the Quebec Nordiques.
The Nordiques is one of those teams that it was a huge rival because it was a battle of Quebec.
Yeah, what did you think? You must have hated them.
I hated the Nordiques. I never liked the Nordiques. It was one of those. I hated them more than I hated the Bruins at the time.
Second reason to love Quebec was they were a thorn in Montreal's side. As a Toronto fan,
yeah,
I like that. But they came up in the World Hockey Association, and we won't go through the whole history, but a quick overview. World Hockey Association, we're one of the 4 teams that was allowed to merge with the NHL. They signed the Stastny brothers, all 3 of them, at that time, and Peter Stastny was, if there was no Wayne Gretzky, Peter Stastny, I think, was probably second in points for the decade. And they got a few other guys, Michel Goulet, and they had Dan Bouchard, and they had Michel Bergeron, the coach, and they got into some huge, probably the greatest hockey fight of all time is in a playoff game between Montreal and Quebec that went into 2 periods and like 12 guys on each team being thrown out. But anyway, they were really good in the mid '80s, but then they fell apart, and eventually the fandom, as you were talking to me earlier off camera, you were stationed up there at one point.
Yeah. And, I was in the military at the time, and they were you couldn't give away Nordiques tickets. Like they were offering them for free. People were like, no, I'll pass.
So they ended up ultimately moving to Colorado. And the rest is history. Colorado's actually one of the great franchises now in the NHL.
Yeah.
And
but people forget about that in Quebec City because now they're talking about Quebec wants the team back. Right?
Well, they
built this arena.
They built this beautiful arena.
Yeah.
It's an NHL size. It's an NHL arena with the booth, the VIP boxes. Yeah, it's ready to go.
They built it and because I lived in Quebec City when they were building this thing, and it was a big controversy because they used government money to do this.
Well, it's Quebec.
They were building it. Yeah, they were building it thinking like, oh yeah, we're gonna get it, and then they were actually even selling. There was a company out there taking pre-selling season tickets, even though they didn't even have a team.
No,
Go ahead. And so it was a big stink and everything else. But the big problem is, and this is because I lived there at the time, the mayor of Quebec
Yeah.
wasn't helping at all at this time. I forget what his name was, but he wasn't helping at all in this. He was the kind of guy that would slam his fist on the desk saying, "You're going to give us back our Nordiques. You're going to give us back our team because they deserve it. They deserve it." Well, the NHL is just a bunch of billionaires, and they don't get bullied by a mayor.
No, Jim Pasili, the Research in Motion founder, found that out the hard way when he tried to move Pittsburgh to Hamilton or Kitchener. But you know, the last two rounds of expansion to Vegas and Seattle, which have been immensely successful. One thing I think Quebec would have a problem with is coming up with the ticket. $750 million, I think, would be the price for a franchise now. And this is the point.
I think that's like 10 years ago's prices.
Well, Vegas paid I think Seattle paid. Yeah, they might go for a franchise might go for $1 billion now.
Yeah.
Point taken. All the more reason why Quebec could have a tough time with that. But the NHL, they're well, we're not really announcing it. We don't know. Gary Bettman, we don't know yet. They're going to 34 teams. There's been enough talk about it, and I can tell you right now, you heard it here first. It's likely going to be. I'm not too sure about Houston. I'm going to pick Houston. It could be Kansas City, maybe even Portland, but it's probably going to be Houston. And the other franchise is going to be Atlanta. And to go back to Atlanta for a third time,
I don't think so. That's not going to work.
It's going to happen. Book it right now. They want that TV market. They want that hole they've got between the Carolinas and Florida filled.
I think there's a giant hole market right now in the Maritimes. I think Halifax should get a team.
Halifax can't even get a CFL franchise.
They could if they wanted to, but I think if somebody
they're not going to Halifax.
There's enough people in Halifax.
They don't have an arena. They don't have an arena.
They could build one. They did one in Quebec. They could build one there.
They're not going to Halifax.
There's a major.
Look, I've got relatives. I've got roots in Halifax. But they can't even. I love the city. I can't say enough. I love it, but it's not getting an NHL franchise. They're not giving a franchise to Halifax over Quebec. Quebec's got an arena and a fan base.
Yeah, but
I got news for Quebec people. Your heart's going to be broken because they're going back to Atlanta, and in the round after that, because they're going to go to 36. Those NHL teams, $1 billion is about it's $33 million or $30 million a franchise. That's it pays for Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares or whoever right there. Anyway, they're going to Phoenix. Yes, folks, you heard it here. When they get to 36 teams, there's going to be a team in Atlanta, and there's going to be Gary Bettman's determined to go back to Vegas. He wants that. He's got
Phoenix.
He's going back to Phoenix. It sounds like a Glenn Campbell song.
Well, that's like saying Hartford could get their team back.
No, Hartford threw a curve on me there. They're not going back to Hartford. When they go to 40,
well, if they could go back to Phoenix,
they'll go to Hartford when they go to 42 teams. There, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and maybe Halifax then at the time will get one.
The H's. It'll be the H expansion. No, they
They're
Quebec City.
doing it alphabetical.
But I think Quebec City should get a team. I would love it if Canada had an 8th team, and it will not be in Halifax.
I think
it won't be in Hamilton because Buffalo and Toronto are never going to allow that. They're not going to allow Hamilton. A Hamilton franchise or Kitchener for that matter would kill the Buffalo Sabres. 1/3 of their fan base comes across the border.
Yeah.
I mean, I pulled a number on it.
Well, that's probably why
I don't know if
would
it's
never allowed what's his name to put a team in Hamilton.
They're not going to put a team in Hamilton. No, they never will. Then Leafs. What there's more likely to be one day maybe is a second team in Toronto,
or about another one out west, Regina. Saskatoon?
They tried that. St. Louis Blues in about 1983, I'm going to say, tried to move to Saskatoon. They had it all. The whole thing was all set up, and the NHL came along and said, no, you're not going to go to Saskatoon. Because people down in the States, they barely know what a Winnipeg is. They are not going to buy tickets for a Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan?
Yeah. Regina, other than Americans are going to go, what?
What about the eastern...
Can you say that on TV, Regina?
Northeastern states like Maine?
What? No, man. Where do you get? Did you take geography in high school? There's no. I've driven through Maine. You got to gas up between towns. There's hardly anybody lives there. It's like Northern Ontario. There's more. Thunder Bay's going to get a franchise.
Well, you got to look at where the holes are. Where are the holes right now?
I just told you, Atlanta. And Atlanta's one of the biggest airports in. It's a hub.
They tried Atlanta,
and Georgia's one of the fastest growing states.
They tried Atlanta. It didn't work. They're
not going up. They're not going to Maine.
They're going to Halifax.
They're going to. I'll tell you that it's going to be Houston, and Atlanta, and Kansas City has an NHL franchise and arena, a beautiful one apparently, and they've they played hockey there. In 1975 they had the Kansas City Scouts came in with Washington.
Yeah.
So they've been to Kansas City before. So it's going to be Houston, Atlanta, Kansas City, Portland, maybe not Portland, Maine, by the way, Portland, Oregon, and Phoenix is going to be up for grabs to go back again. And Quebec City is going to, sadly, Quebec City is going to be on the outs. And Halifax will still be going, well, we want a CFL franchise. They're not getting an NHL franchise.
Well, they might. You never know. You can't rule them out. They've got the population. It's 500,000 people in that town, plus the surrounding areas. New Brunswick ain't that far away. It's only about an hour and a half. No, about an hour and a half's drive. So, I mean, you'll get people from...
Fredericton's about 2.5 hours, two and a quarter.
People would drive that for a game. I would.
Well, you are.
I am.
You're going to pick up your brother at the airport.
Going to Buffalo,
and you got and empty seats in the back. You didn't ask me to go to that game. Anyway, Quebec was they had a great franchise in the '80s and did a lot of neat things and always were very competitive. Fell apart and then eventually.
It's funny because I was also in Winnipeg. When Winnipeg lost their franchise, jeez, I've got a.
You're like that. I saw a
was posted
video
in Winnipeg.
Someone's done a study that Garth Brooks, every concert he plays, there's a murder. Garth Brooks is a serial killer. I mean, it's just you make the math, and you can do that with any Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
there's always a death in every city. But apparently, this guy did a whole thing about Garth Brooks. So you're a franchise killer.
That's right, I'm a franchise killer.
You're a franchise.
So I'm going to
killer.
hang around Toronto a little longer.
No, I'm going to go with Quebec City. May get a franchise, but we're looking at the 37th or the 38th.
Yeah, I don't think they're.
By that time, it'll be the 38th franchise in the NHL, and it'll be located in the 51st state. Maybe.
Right. Anyways,
because crazy things are happening out there these days.
In Quebec City, don't hold your breath anytime. Don't hold your breath because I don't think it's coming anytime soon. But anyway, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Who do you think should have the next NHL franchise? I think Halifax. What do you think?
Oh.
See you next time.